Right, today I'm going to carry on with probably the most important part of the project, and that is the Raspberry Pi, the server that has a Docker container and will have a number of services running in the container. Today I will cover getting the Docker container up and running, and then using Potainer to monitor it, as well as having Mqtt, which is a Mosquito broker. Okay, these are the steps that you would essentially need to follow. This is only part of the process. What I'll do is, this is probably the first part of maybe 2 or 3 parts. In the later recordings I'll do, or later videos, I'll do the installation of InfluxDB as well as Grafana, so that we can show charts and gauges of the captured data from the BME 280 sensor. If you look at what you'd need to do is, and you'll find many videos on YouTube, you would want to set up the Raspberry Pi, download the image, use Mqtt to copy the image to an SD card. Once you got that, I'll put links in the description, but once you get the Raspberry Pi booted up, you'd want to make it headless, so you'd set up SSH so that you can putty into it. Once you have that, you would then run Docker. So effectively this is Docker. Docker allows you, and it's used not only on the Raspberry Pi, but it's used, you can run Docker on your computer. I have Windows sub Linux 2 with Docker containers. It's Docker desktop. You can run it on Linux machines, you can run it in the cloud. The astounding part about it is that I'll show you, you have a script file called the Docker compose file, and all that does is just tells it spin up these containers, and you can make many copies of the same containers. The 2 things I'll cover today is Mqtt. Mqtt has become the de facto standard for IoT, mainly because of the way it scales. You have a publish and a subscribe, and you can have one publisher and many subscribers, and then what you effectively have is a broker, Mqtt broker. The broker handles all the traffic for you, so if you have one publisher and 100 subscribers, the Mqtt broker will handle that for you. So when that one device, in the case of what we have here, the sensor publishes temperature, humidity and pressure, that will be sent to the broker, and then the broker will send it to every single device that is subscribed to that topic. So what you, as I said, this is the Mqtt and Potainer. Potainer is this, I'll put all the links in the description to all these different right. So once you have the Raspberry Pi up and running, you can SSH into it. I use 2 different devices, 2 different tools. Let's see. Okay. So these are the 2 tools I use. This one is Putty. So as you can see here, this shows me when I run what's actually running inside the Raspberry Pi through a secure shell, SSH. Then I have this WinSCP. WinSCP allows me to take files that are on my Windows machine and copy them into so this is the Windows machine on this side, and this over here is the Raspberry Pi. So it allows you to take, the only thing you need in this stage is this Docker compose. So this Docker compose YAML file gets copied across into this directory, And then if you look at the, I'll show you on Visual Studio Code. This is the Docker Compose file. So all you do is you tell it these are the two services I want. I want Potainer, I want Mqtt. This is the name of the container. This now, and what you actually have with Docker is Docker Hub. And Docker Hub is a repository, much like GitHub, for Docker containers. What they are is an image. So you tell it I want Potainer and the Potainer image, and then you, in the case of Mqtt, you tell it I want Eclipse Mqtt. Then you have some criteria to tell it, or some settings that tell it it must only restart unless it's stopped. You tell it the port that gets exposed, and then you, in the case of this, is on port 9000, and this is on port 1883, which is a default setting for Mqtt. You can obviously put this onto any port that you want. What I'll show, what actually happens if we look at the once you've now copied that compose file across, I actually have it running here, but what I can do is if I do this, it'll stop the two services from running, and then I'll basically show you now if I do a clear. And then what you type is Docker Compose up. You have either Docker Compose up or Docker Compose down. When you say Docker Compose up, you type it in. What it effectively goes, it basically starts up the container, uses the image file to create the container. If it wasn't created before, it creates it from default. And you can see what's actually happening there is you have the two services running. There's Mqtt. You can just see what it shows here, the version, the ports it's opening on, and what actually happens is I have a number of tools that allow me, for instance, this is this Mqtt Explorer. So Mqtt Explorer allows you to look at the topics that are actually are being published and subscribed to. So I have, as I've shown in the previous episodes, I have the BME 280 that is publishing sensor information on this Enviro BME sensor. You can see there is the temperature, pressure, and humidity. And then what you actually have as well is you have the display as well. So in one of the other previous episodes I showed the display. So the way you control the display is to send update messages. So this is an example here. Couple of humidity values here, 46.7, 35.8, then of course pressure, so we'll have 845.2, another value 831.7. Okay, what you have here is Potainer. Now this, as you can see, is being served up on port 9000. This is the start screen that you see. You'll see it shows you one stack, two containers. If you click on this, you'll see the actual two containers that are running. This is Mqtt and Potainer. These, if you actually click on the thing, you can actually on the button you can see more information about the actual container. what the image name is, all kinds of things, how long it's been running for. If you then go back to Mqtt, it's this, to Potainer, you can see the same thing. Each one of these menus on this side, now you'll see there's the name of the container. And then if you click on this, it'll show you the logs. So this shows you, now this is Mqtt. You can actually see which devices are connected to it. You can see they display next to you, and there's the sensor BME, and I have some other, there's Mqtt Explorer. So each of these now has subscribed and are sitting now waiting for messages to come. Yeah, so that's Potainer, really useful tool. Alright, so I hope it gives you a bit of an idea of what's possible with a Raspberry Pi, with Docker. Thank you for watching, and well, I'll see you in the next one.